Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Colors of Parenthood. I'm your host Margarita, and today we have an incredibly special guest who embodies the vibrant spirit of fatherhood. Joining us today is Carlos. He has experienced the highs and lows of raising daughters and navigating the complexity of parenting through different cultural lenses, from Ecuador to Germany. Carlos will share his journey into fatherhood from his initial expectations to the rewarding reality he's embraced. We'll talk about the fears he faced when he found that he would have daughters, the importance of a strong partner relationship, managing generational pressures, and the role mental health plays in being a better dad. So, grab your favorite drink, find a comfy spot, and join us for a heartwarming and thought provoking conversation with Carlos. Hello, everyone. Today we have Carlos with us. Carlos, could you please share a bit about yourself and your story of how you become a dad?
So, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and to be part of the work that you're doing. So, my journey as a dad started 5 years ago. I married my wife 7 years ago, and yeah, it was like such a blessing. Just that like as usual, it didn't went as I expected. I'm the first son, first grandson, first great grandson, and all of a sudden I broke the cycle, knowing that I was gonna be the father of a girl. And at the beginning, I was shocked, but not because she was a girl per se, but because of the awareness of the gender violence numbers that there are in my country. I think 70% of women have been harassed in public transportation in a way, and it's just like to understand that that's the reality in which my daughter was gonna grow. It was something that was really challenging to accept, right? And yeah, so that made me realize that if I wanna make the world a better place for her, I need to work a lot on it to improve the structures that um, don't allow women to just be and to be free, right? Because they always have to take care of themselves, and that's something that I find that is very sad.
Yeah, and could you please also share where you're from and what is your journey of like where you live now before we continue?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Ecuador, from Quito. I met my wife in China while I was doing a master's degree there, of a double degree that I was doing. And yeah, right now we live in Munich. We took the decision to come to live in Europe because I wanted to do a political career in Ecuador, let's say, but the insecurity rise to another extent. It went from four deaths or every 100,000 to 40 in less than a year. And it's just like a conscious decision to know that I don't want to be thinking that maybe today it's going to be me or my wife or one of my kids. So, of course, bad things can happen everywhere, but the likelihood of them happening in a city like Munich are less. And I think that there are three main decisions that really determine your life, how your life is going to be. The first one is the partner you marry, which is something that is very important to make a conscious decision about it. Like people, I feel sometimes they just fall in love with someone without not of someone, of the idea they have of someone, the idealization that they have of a person. But it's very important to really like ask the hard questions, right? How many kids do you want? How do you see yourself in 30 years? Like, and for me, something that was very revealing is also to ask your partner, like, and to see how your partner treats her family. That's also very revealing of how they're gonna treat you in some years. The second thing is the geography that you choose, because that determines everything for your family, the structures of how your kids are going to grow, which school they're going to go to, who are going to be the classmates that are going to be around them. If you want them to go to a very elite school that all the kids are privileged, or that you want them to go to a public school that it's like they are going to understand like what real society is, right? So it's like you have to make this conscious decision of like, do you want them to grow in a bubble, or do you want them to grow in the real world? And that's what we wanted for our kids. And the third thing is the reputation, right? So yeah, right now we are living here in Munich. In less than 3 months, we have to move now to Switzerland. I got a position there as a PhD student, so I'm really happy about it. But yes, it's like I think like life is like I think we underestimate how important it is to make conscious decisions and to make explicit what for us is implicit, and that's why going to a psychologist, going to a coach is so important because it allows really to untangle all those knots that we have in our unconsciousness that we are like not aware of, right? And the idea is like the more conscious we are in the way we take decisions, the happier we're going to be, and the better structures and the better environment we're going to be able to provide to our families.
Yep. Congratulations on the job position.
Thank you.
Are you feeling safer now with your daughters? And how old were they when you moved from Ecuador?
So that's another thing. So when we came from Ecuador to Germany, my first daughter, she was four, three, and the little one was one. But the day I landed, my wife was pregnant again. Like we got pregnant again. It's not that my wife, we got pregnant again, and it was like just a shock because it was like starting for her, right, a new job in a new country that she knew. But one thing is to know it as a student, and another thing is to know it as a mother, right? A full working mom, like it's very demanding with all the like hormonal changes of mood. And as a dad, for me, it was also very hard to navigate all these transitions in the sense that I love my wife a lot. And I think we have a really good like partnership. And what I wanted to emphasize here is the fact that it's like it's challenging, like life comes with its challenges. And it's like I really like this meme that says "Pick your heart." Like to be a father of girls or to be a father of kids, it's hard. But to be single all your life, being lonely, like is also another type of heart, right? And it's always important to pick your heart. So that first year, let's say, was super demanding. It was not that we were expecting our third daughter; she came really by surprise, and that's why we decided to call her Micaela, Hilda Micaela, because she's a gift from God, right? And so we're very happy, and she's like such a sweetheart. Like she's so charming in the way she smiled at us, and but yeah, that first year, let's say, was a bit demanding, and to change to a new country was hard in the sense that I had to take the decision also that okay, right now my family needs me. It was my wife that was gonna work full time. She was gonna be the one that's gonna be providing financially, right? And that's not like the scheme in which I grew up. So for me, it
Mhm.
took like a bit of work, conscious work, to go and sit in the passenger seat, let's say, and to know that I was gonna be taken care of by her and to say financially. But like that's something that sometimes we underestimate the power of a present parent. Like it's so important, like really in the first years of kids, 0 to 5. But I think everywhere, like even now that I'm 37, I still want to have my mom around. So like right, like it's cool to have your parents there now as grandparents, but um, the presence of the parents at home to give quality time with the kids. Because I don't know, I see also sometimes like nowadays, like everything has to be planned, right? From 4 to 6, we're gonna go to the pool. From 6 to 7, we're gonna read this book. From 7 to 8, they have to shower, and then in between somewhere there, they have to eat. But it's just sometimes like I feel that the magic moments come spontaneously, right? Yesterday, for example, we were going to a park. Then a friend told me, "Do you want to go to play volley?" We took with all the kids there, and when then somebody put like soccer, football, like goals. We started to play with my kids, and they were so happy, laughing around, and those are like the moments that you cannot plan, right?
Yeah.
It's like they just happen, and we were laughing. The kids were laughing. We were having a really good time with the girls. Like then we went swimming, and yeah, like that. Parenting is like really something that is such so fulfilling as a person, but like I feel also we live in a society right now that we just see parenting and getting married as one more step in my life. But when you realize that for that kid, that nest is everything, right? That family is everything. You make it a more conscious like decision again to try to work on yourself and to try to work in your partnership, right? And I think that's magical. Like the presence of a parent. So I decided also consciously to say, okay, now I have to be at home. I have to be taking my girls to the kindergarten. I have to help a bit cleaning with the house. I have to help now cooking, doing the laundry. I'm not all I'm sure my wife, if she would hear me now, she would be laughing because I don't always succeed to do everything to her standard, right? But so far the kids are okay. We are survive. They are surviving. Today we had an emergency with the on Friday there was a bee that stung my daughter, and 2 days after she was still in pain. So we took her to the doctor, and it was something that was actually like very serious. If you don't react and take antibiotics, and if it's still hurting after some days, it can be serious. But it's that preventive thinking. It's always something that I say to my wife, right? Instead of always trying to think of, okay, how can we do to solve this problem? I'm always like saying, okay, like if we want to have a house that is safe, okay, we have to take all the knives from in front of the girls, or like to prevent. Like you cannot prevent everything, but the more you create structures where the kids are going to be safe, the better it's going to be for all of us.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think that planning while having like kids and family is just not impossible because things are going everywhere when the kids are little as well. And I remember even now it's just hard to plan with my family, just a little things and during the day. And because you mentioned like planning, preparing, etc., would you say that you were prepared to be a dad? So, what were the expectations versus the reality?
Like you are never prepared to be a dad in the sense that, again, what I said previously, we live in a society that right now is so individualistic, right? And
Yeah,
everything's about your development. Like you have a good job, then you're already thinking about like what's gonna be my next step, right? And then you're studying what is gonna be my next thing that I'm gonna do, my next enterprise, the next thing. Like, and I think it's very important also like the fact of being able to just accept and enjoy the reality as it is, which is something so beautiful. And that's something that happened to me. I remember I was in Australia when I started dating my wife. We were going out with this friend from Venezuela, and he would like every single night go out and meet a new girl, and he would every time tell the same story to a different girl, right? And sometimes, like say, he would like be able to make a move with the girl, sometimes not. But like, and then I was like jealous of thinking like, oh, I would like also to try something here, but I'm already in a relationship. But then my friend told me like, it's about where you're gonna put your focus. Like instead of focusing in what I'm losing, that was shallow conversations saying the same thing, the same story every single
yeah,
night. That he went going out, I was having the capacity to have really strong, deep, uh, very connecting type of conversations with my wife that in that time was my girlfriend, right? And I was like, yeah. Instead of that's the thing is like we're always thinking that the grass is greener in the other field, right? But when you
yeah.
like learn how to really appreciate what you have, it's like your whole life changes so much, right? And I'm just like so grateful for the life that I have right now. Like I really think like I cannot be more blessed. I have a wife that loves me, that supports me. I have like three daughters that they are just amazing. But if I could say like that I'm gonna plan everything to the minute of how, it's impossible, right? Because kids come with surprises and they have their own needs. My wife, she has her own needs. And that's the thing is like sometimes I'm not even aware of my own needs. How can I expect 3-year-old, 5-year-old to be aware of what she wants when she hasn't even know what an emotion is, right? How to navigate those emotions, how to, I'm not gonna say control them, but to manage them, right? And also that is like it's to understand that also, for example, sometimes we are afraid of conflicts, but I think conflicts are super necessary when you have healthy relationships because conflicts are like the product of two distant expectations that are trying to find their way to meet,
Yeah.
right? And to find a solution together. So, going back to your question, like, you can plan, and it's important, like let's say, to have the structures also for kids and as adults. Like if every day I wait to go to sleep at one day at 1, the other day at 3, the other day at 10, the other day at 9, my whole body is gonna be suffering the consequences of that. Like the more structure you have your life,
Yeah.
let's say. But again, it's like I remember when we were watching. I did a program in public policy, and it's this importance of rules versus principles, right? And we try to have with my wife a values based schedule instead of a rule based schedule, right? And why do I say rules? Is like, let's say there was this very clear example that there was this kindergarten that they said we need to put images in the walls so the kids can develop. So that was the rule. But in order to fulfill the rule, what they did is they just cut some papers from newspapers and put it on the wall, and they fulfilled the rule. But the principle behind that rule was that you wanted kids to have images of things that were like edifying for them, that were going to help them grow and to understand colors. And so if you put black and white newspapers in pictures, right? And that's very important also when you are in a partnership, to understand which are the values that makes you take certain decisions, right? So yeah, it's very important to have the structures, like, okay, we're gonna go to sleep at this time, that we're gonna have dinner at this time. We're gonna either try to have healthy lunches here, healthy dinners, maybe an ice cream once a week, or we're gonna give your kids like the screen for half an hour if you have to have a meeting, let's say once a week. But you plan and you adapt, plan and adapt, like
Yep.
and that's, I think, also like something that allows you to have a happy marriage and a happy fatherhood, is the fact that you always have to be adapting. And the less you are constrained by those rules that you create for yourself, the happier you're going to be, as long as they are based on the values that you really embody, right? Like for me, I'm very aware of my values. It's first spirituality, then justice, then honesty, right? But so if those decisions that we take align with our values, it's okay, right? I'm not gonna be stuck by the rule just by the rule. That, for example, that's something that in a way has been a bit hard for me to understand sometimes in Germany. Like rules are really, really important. I had a friend that told me like Christian people, they believe in God, Muslims in Allah, but Germans, we believe in rules, right? Yeah,
Mm.
rules are important when you want to organize a society, but it's, for me, more important than that is to understand the principles behind those rules, and that's why how we're gonna try to build our family around with my wife.
Yeah. I definitely agree, and also I have to say that also change. Values change based on your context, where you at your life. If you have a family or not, you have different values. Also, probably.
Mhm.
So, and also values make you behave in a certain way. So you are behaving aligned to your values. So what you said makes a lot of sense. And following my last question, as I said, like preparing and everything, would you said mentally and emotionally, were you prepared to become a dad? Because that's a huge transition for your own identity as well.
Yeah, like in the field of the ontology in English,
Yeah.
but like your whole stage, your whole identity changes, right?
Mm,
I remember I was talking to a priest about it because once my wife and and my little girl, they went to Germany for a month because my wife had to work, and we were living in Ecuador. And I told the priest, like, yeah, I cannot be dependent on them to be happy, right? I have to be happy by myself, and because one cannot give what one does not possess. So first of all, it's important to have inner peace and to be okay. But then the priest told me, yes, to a certain extent, to a certain point, because now your whole identity changed. Like now I was not Carlos, just the Carlos that I always met. I was Carlos the dad. There was
mhm.
a little human being that totally depended on me. And I'm not saying just financially, I say like emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. It's like I see like sometimes it's just expressions that my kids do, that I see my mom, my grandpa, it's like a whole generational thing that we're passing to our kids without being aware of it, right? And what I decided when once I knew I was gonna be a dad is that I said, okay, I want to take this seriously, and there is just so much generational trauma we are not even aware of that I decided to work upon. One was, for example, I come from a political family in Ecuador, and I remember when I came from a master's degree, I was 30 years old. I had a dream of my great grandpa that he's already dead, but he was telling me, you should already be minister by now, right? And I was like, that's so stupid, honestly. Like, because it's like these self-imposed narratives that we put on ourselves that no one
Mhm.
expects from us, but we think they are there, and they are like, I see this so many times in, I don't know, my dad wanted me to be a doctor, but I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't meet my dad's expectations, right, or my mom's expectations of me or whatever. But for me, something that was very revealing was when my second daughter was born. My mom came to help us at home like one morning, and she grabbed my daughter and she said like, she's just perfect. And I make a post there because I want people to dig that in. She's just perfect. You are just perfect. I'm perfect. It's like our parents, they don't love us for what we achieve, for what we do. They love us just because we are. And for me, that was like 2 years of therapy to reach that realization that I'm just loved because I am. The degrees, the successes, the companies, whatever, it's just a plus, right? But like to know that I'm loved just because I am, for me it was also that. It's like I was like, what did she do to be perfect? What did she do to? Like, she was just there, right? She was just one kid that was like amazing, lovely, and that was something that for me just to live that moment was so liberating after going through all this therapy for myself to understand that myself my sense of identity, my sense of worth, my self-esteem is not dependent on what I do, but just because, and that's the message that I want all the parents to try to pass to their kids. It's like, I don't know, maybe you didn't become the doctor, the mechanic, you didn't become the president or whatever, you thought your parents were wanting you to become. At the end of the day, what your parents want from you is to be happy, to be fulfilled. And that's the thing also, that what I'm talking about, healing generational trauma, is like if you don't work on those things, you are passing all these expectations to your kids without even realizing. And maybe you are like, the only rule of life is that life is changing a lot, and more in these times, like the bombardment of information, the career wise, like in 4 years we don't know what's going to happen with AI, right? We have no idea. And like in a way, it's very important, I think, to teach our children how to connect with one another, how to be aware of their own emotions, right? Because even if we think it from a macro level, the world in which our kids are growing has nothing to do with the world we live in now. Like the access to information, to pornography, to drugs, right, online. It's as a dad is scary, and it's also something that I realized that is very important also to put rules with the group of friends, because sometimes there's a friend trying to be funny and they send porn video, let's say, in a WhatsApp group. What would happen if in that moment my daughter is playing with the phone and she starts to see that, right? And those are things that we don't think about, but they could have really hardcore repercussions just because you were trying to be funny. And those are the things that I want to be surrounded myself with a community of friends that also share my values, in the sense that I want to be a dad that provides a good environment for them. And I'm not gonna tell them that sex is evil, but yes, it's okay in a context, right? It's like it's something that you are giving. For me, something that I also realize as a society is we have made such a problem when we have disconnected our physical part from our emotional part, in the sense that when you give yourself to someone else, there's this very strong emotional connection that can be there. And men and women, they are not product to satisfy your partner. You are a human being and you deserve to be loved fully by the other person. And I remember when I got married, I quoted this phrase from Chaplin that said something like, only the person that is able to see your naked soul is worthy of seeing your naked body. And in a sense, that's what the message that I want to pass to my daughters, that they are so loved, they are so amazing, they are so that they it's up to them to decide what they want to do or not, right? And that's another point. I can have whatever values, whatever ideas. If I am not walking the talk, if I'm not following the example that I'm preaching, it's very hard for my daughters to follow what I'm saying, right? Or and that's also that is like when I was another thing that was make me aware when I was gonna be a father of girls is to realize that at the end of the day they are gonna be searching for a partner that is similar to the way that I treat their mom. And that brought me to another point: how important it is to really be a good husband, a good partner before being a good dad. And I think that's the basis of a good parenthood.
Yeah, and also following what you've said before, I think just existing makes you worthy of love. And I think you mentioned it as well. And it's really hard for people to realize that. They always think of like, I need to achieve this and that, and then I will be worthy of people recognizing me, respect me, love me, etc. Yeah, it made me think. I wanted to ask you, do you feel free of speaking about this and being emotionally vulnerable in front of your friends, fellow friends that are parents as well, and sharing the difficulties of being a parent also?
No, I think that's again something that is very, very liberating when you have friends that you can do that, right? And that's also, I think we are the first generation, well, maybe not, I don't know the first, but one of the first that is living the impact of social media in the health, in our mental health. One example that I remember, like a friend of mine, she's an Instagram coach, right? And then she was following this other friend of ours, who had this maternity channel. And in Instagram, everything was perfect, spotless,
Yeah.
amazing. It would look like I don't know, the girl would go to the toilet like really at every hour on the time, like on the clock, right? But then one time we had a party, and then that friend came to the with the kid, and they were just like a kid that was crying, that was making like. But those are the kind of things that you don't show on social media, right? And that's why I wanna like connect with people that are authentic. But that's, I think that's the biggest harm that has social media has done for us, is this idea that sometimes I don't know, I talk to my friends and maybe they're unemployed, right? And they are going through a very difficult time. But because it's so hard to ask for help, they say, what are you doing right now? Oh, I'm a consultant, or I'm taking a break, or I'm doing this. Like, but it's very important. Okay, but if you don't tell me in what area are you struggling, right? Or first of all, if I have not made myself worthy of that information because there's no trust between us, right? And then you don't share with me your story, it's very hard for us to grow as human beings. And that's something that I realized. Like in LinkedIn, I have find such an amazing community like Alex Egler, right? That you interviewed in a previous MP.
Yeah.
He's such an amazing dad, right? And in the sense that he also had his issues with his father, and then he decided to work on them. But that's the type of dad that I admire, because he tells it as it is. He's not pretending to be perfect. He's just a father in the 21st century trying to do the best he can with the best available information out there to try to be there for their parents, for their kids, right? And to be there for his wife. And they are a partnership, right? Uh, but that's why I think it's very important also to talk about our struggles. And that's also something very important that I realized in psychology. we're always trying to talk about our lights, but we don't talk about our shadows.
Hmm.
And the problem is when we don't talk about our shadows, we think we are the only person that have these thoughts. Like, I am married,
Yeah.
I'm also attracted to other women. When that happens to me, that I remember one time I was in a party and it was a period in my marriage where we were very distant with my wife. I was working a lot, she was working a lot. We had the kids, we had like a lot of routines, like, but we didn't have any time to connect, right?
Yep.
And I met this 18-year-old girl that I just danced with for 2 seconds, and I was like, wow, she's amazing. I don't know what's happening. I think I'm falling in love with her and whatever. And I was like thinking like, no, what you like about her is this idea that you are making yourself of her. When I tried to go into deeper conversations about her thoughts, her values, I thought that we were like a total disconnect, right? But what I did is like I went home and I told my wife, this happened to me. What is happening to us as a marriage, right? Where are we putting our priorities? And I really like that I love my wife. She really like told me, yes, it's true. We have been really disconnected. We need to maybe take a date. And it's also hard, right? When after such a busy time, you're always like doing something in and you're in the run and you go into those routines, it's very hard to find those moments to reconnect. That is really important, and that's why I love also one of the things I love about my wife is that I can go to her and I tell her what's happening to me, right? And we work on it, and yeah, and it's like taking decisions as a couple.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. I would say that it's hard for a lot of people, even without having kids and whatever, to actually realize I need to speak with my partner, be out there and say we need to reconnect. And following what you've said, how hard, like, was it really hard for you guys when you had your first child to find this time to work together and be partners, like newly parents? Because that's a whole different roles than just being married.
Yeah, so that was, yeah, really hard in the sense that you sleep less.
Yeah.
You become like, that's also something that for me is always very funny. When the kid is born, is like, how's the kid and how's the mom? Okay, see you, man. I'm in front of you. Like, how are you? Like, nobody cares about the dad, right? But and that's something that I realized, that the fact that I quit my job to be with my daughter, it made me realize the importance of taking care of the caretaker. Like, it's my wife was working, so I was like asking her like, let's go on the weekend somewhere. No, I'm tired. But and then I understood so much, like the wives of my friends that were like complaining, and my friends were like, no, but my wife is complaining about this and I'm working all the time. Yeah, but also she also needs her time, right? And that also is so important sometimes, just to like to have the initiative to take a nap with the girls, so your wife can go to the gym, to run, to do groceries, to makeup, I don't know, whatever she wants to do, right? To go to the cinema, to a book club or whatever. But it's we when once we become parents, we it's this huge temptation to just forget about oneself,
Yeah.
and that's problematic in the long term, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're in this for the long term, and if you don't take care about your mental health and your self-worth and your development as a human being, you are gonna bring home the worst version of yourself, right? And that's not what you want. So it's very, very important also that to talk, and to talk about, like, before the kids are there, like, what are your expectations? What would happen if that doesn't work out? And also to take some time to also thank your partner for what they're doing. Like, I remember went to visit this friend that they had twins, right? And he's like a consultant for the World Bank, and he's a lecturer at Oxford University. And her wife, she also, they met in Oxford, let's say. And I remember we went to visit them, and imagine having twins. Like, that
Hmm.
changes everything. I was like, for me, I know how hard it was to have one, like to have two at the same time, both wanting from you something, right? And I noticed like there was just so much tension in the relationship, in the sense that they were trying to present that everything was perfect to me, but whatever they were doing, like, don't do this, don't do that, don't move there, And then I said, like, when was the last time that you tell her thank you for this or for that, right? Or when was or what do you like about her, or what do you like about her parenting style? And that's the thing, is like we're always focusing in what we're lacking, because once you become a parent, it's something that nothing prepares you to know how your partner was raised. And it's in your parenting that you realize the songs that your mother-in-law used to sing to your wife, right? And that's something we were in Ecuador, and all of a sudden my wife started to aram sam sam aram sam sam, and I was like, what is that? I never heard about it, right? But then it's when once you're at that, you discover how your partner grew up, because it's like parenting is such a it's so unique to every individual. And that's the thing, there are principles, there are books telling you what to do, but at the end of the day, you have to find what works for you and your family.
Yeah, so would you say that you needed to adapt your parenting styles to be collaborative when you were together? Because what you've said made a lot of sense, and your parenting style would be different initially.
Yeah, but again, I go back to that what I said before, is the importance of understanding your values and the values of your partner, right? If both of our are about justice, so we have to try to divide the task equally without trying to take the counts, right? Because that's also something that
Yeah.
can be very detrimental for relationships. It's like everybody, it's like, for me, what I love is like a relationship is predicated under the assumption that I'm gonna try to be there for my wife, and my wife is gonna be try to be there for me, right? And both of us are gonna try to bring the best to the table that we can. And for example, I'm the oldest brother, so I'm very communitarian. My wife is a single child from a single mother.
Okay.
So of course we're gonna be different. But that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying, like, it's very important sometimes to align what are my non-negotiables, right? I need to run at least once a day, or 3 times a week. I need to go to the gym, right? And that's something that we do with my wife. I go to the gym certain days, and she goes to swim other days. But it's very important for each of us to have those times. Otherwise, really, again, I repeat, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, it's like how you're gonna be there in the long term.
Yep. Communication is key.
Yeah,
My main point from what you've said would be communication is a key here. Um, and I wanted to ask you, living in those different countries, has that affected your parenting styles? Because what you've mentioned, like Germany with rules, etc., this is so different from where you've lived before.
it changed a bit in certain contexts. Just to add what you said before, this idea of communication, yes, it's so important to make explicit what for each of one of is implicit, right? But that connects perfectly with that. Is like, what do you expect? And like, it's now that I live in Germany that I understand a lot of the things my wife was doing in Ecuador, let's say.
Hmm.
But it's also that, it's like, instead of trying to mold your family according to what you grew up with, right? It's also so cool for me to see there's other ways. And it's so important also to try to fall in love with those ways of my wife being a mom, right? And to be grateful for that. For example, today, I would never even think that a bee stinging you can create such a long problem if it's not treated, right? I thought, it okay, 3 4 days it's gonna pass. No, my wife was like so preventive, and she said, no, we have to take her to the doctor. And I'm so grateful that she told me, take her to the doctor, right? And those are the things that I think is also very important when you start to be a dad, to have a very strong growth mindset, to know that you don't know it all, that there's a lot of unknowns, right? And also that, like me as the father of a girl, uh, in a way, I'm connecting with my femininity,
Yeah.
let's say. there's just so many things that I'm scared of changing her diaper because I'm gonna uh, touch her there when I'm clean her. Is she's gonna consider that it's assault? You know, all these things that happen through your mind when you are like changing a diaper, let's say, or cleaning her butt because she did poo poo, right? But those are like thoughts that are so common in the mind of dads that they never were. Luckily, I have a sister, so in a way, I understand more about the things. But like some guys, they grew up only in a house of brothers, and all of a sudden they have a woman, a girl, a daughter, and they have no idea whatsoever. Like when I remember when I was growing up, talking about menstruation, about the cycle, was something that for me was, I don't want to know about it. But those are topics that I know that are gonna be with my wife and three daughters,
Yep.
something that is gonna happen every single day. And I would have to understand what's going on there and how to manage this, and it's part of the game. And that's the thing, is like that's something I don't control, but it's just to adapt and to tell my wife, what do I do in this situation? How am I supposed to clean her here? And to ask for help. They're like, I don't know everything, but it's very important to know who knows.
Yeah. Um, and that leaves us to our my last question for you because our time goes by. So imagine uh like a parent to be, and I'm with my partner. And what advice would you give us to be more prepared when it comes to being new parents?
What advice? I would say take care of each other. Really, that if I would have to summarize it in a take care of each other, love each other a lot. Um, Try to really like determine what is really important for you. What are the things that you really don't want to give up? Because also that's something I see that happens, and it's a very common phenomena that a lot of parents, they give everything for their kids, right? And they are blaming their kids because they were not able to achieve what they were supposed to achieve. No, parenting is just one more aspect of your life, right? And I think also that's as a society, and that's my struggle that I am trying to work with. Is like I see societies like Norway, like Sweden, where both parents have equal time for paternity
Hmm.
leave to connect with their kids, and they are able to take care of their relationship. There are societies like the US where like paternity leave is not granted. In Argentina, you have 48 hours. In Ecuador, 10 days for men, and that creates a problem structurally, that the whole gender inequality in salaries, this is one of the main issues that creates this, right? That going back to, if you are parents to be, is would be that work on yourself, try to heal your inner drama dramas and trauma in the relationship, but take care of each other, honestly, and communicate, talk, make explicit what for you is obvious and implicit, because nothing is obvious unless you explain your why, tell your rationale. For me, this is important because. Use the word because. Like, it's not that the other person is gonna guess. What you don't
Yeah.
say is not known. So use the word because. It's important because. And also, going to Onopolulu, this Hawaiian concept,
Yeah.
well, to also remember, like, God has given you that person to be the mother of your children or the father of your children. Like, it's such a blessing. It's such a big thing. Like, it's the person they are gonna look up to, whether or not you stay together, divorce, separate, you widow, whatever. That's the person they are gonna look up to, and you cannot change that. So if you don't try to take the best out of that person, you are making your own life harder. But if you're trying really to be together, to empower each other, and to make the best out of your relationship, your parenthood is gonna become way easier. And that's what I could say.
Thank you. I have goosebumps. Thank you so much for that. Overall, the conversation was lovely, and I really appreciated everything that you've shared with us.
No, thank you. And we have so many other topics to share. Like, I don't know, mental health and parenting is also impressive. Like, I'm just gonna throw in a statistic there. Um, 2% of the people they have in the society that have OECD. When you become a parent, it goes up to 7%, right? Because of the lack
Mm.
of sleep, the lack of routines, and take care of your mental health. Like parenting is not like the end; it's like the beginning of an opportunity to heal yourself and to improve your life exponentially, knowing that you're trying to make the world a better place for that little person that totally depends on you.
Yep. And it's not talked enough. What you just said, like mental health overall, but mental health with parents is still a really under recognized topic.
Yeah,
So
and
thank you for raising awareness.
being authentic, I think, is like the most important thing to not be afraid. And also as bosses, as employees, be real.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you are a dad and things happen. Kids have accidents. You have accidents. Your partner have accidents. Like things happen. It's like it's also that. It's like be happy. I don't know. Be take care of your partner. That will be the last message I would like to say. Take care of your partner and love yourself so you can give what you have.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much, Carlos.
All the best. God bless.